Most of the history we know from the First World War have come from letters, written from the trenches and written from those left at home. Now, I've seen a number of these letters, which inspired me to write my very first play about three young men on the first day of the Somme, writing letters before they went over the top. And here is a little extract of that play from his very first performance at Pontardawe Arts Centre, November 2012.
Keep the home fires burning while your hearts are yearning, though your breath.
60 minutes.
What have you written there?
Nothing much.
Nothing much. Miss Gender. What you had for breakfast? I want to scare me back, do I?
3 years later, I wanted to turn Letters Home into a film, and Ollie Curry came on board as my co-producer. Right, so if you're going to make a World War I film, you need a trench. No trench, no film. So we need a World War I trench system. There are several in the country, but I wanted my film to be made in Wales, with Welsh actors and Welsh crew. Back in 2014, I had heard something about a trench system being built in Wales to commemorate the anniversary of the First World War. So I went hunting on the internet and discovered Morfa Bay Adventure in Pendine, Carmarthenshire. I contacted Andy Edwards, who runs and built the trench. He invited me and my crew along to have a look at the trench system. We went for 2 recce's, one in June in glorious sunshine and one in August in torrential rain, as you can see in the following footage.
So now we needed 3 home locations. Fortunately, a friend of mine runs the Moors Head Cottages in the Vale of Glamorgan, and her farmhouse was able to pretend to be 3 separate locations, both internal and external.
So we needed a budget of £3,000 to make this film, and I decided to do it through Kickstarter. My good friend Richie Lenthal designed the Kickstarter page. Over 50 people contributed to the project. Here I am, pitching the idea on our Kickstarter page. My name's Jay Swift and I'm the writer and producer for Letters Home. A little bit about the story of Letters Home. Most of the actors in my film have worked in plays of mine produced by Llewellyn Theatre. Douglas Gray played Tommy in my play, No Known Grave, which was produced in 2015. Jerry Fitzpatrick played the same role in No Known Grave, which is why I wanted to cast them as best friends in Letters Home. James Scannell played the character of Tom in the play in 2012, which is why I cast him as a corporal. Sarah Louise Tyler starred in the play Anamnesis 2512, which I co-wrote for Mercury Theatre Wales in 2014. Chrissy Neal contacted me before I even knew I needed any females in my film, so I said to her that I would keep a note of her name, and if things were to change, I would contact her. So they changed, I contacted her, and Chrissy came on as Miriam Griffith. Oh yeah, and we also had to find someone to play Tom's mother. Other than our 3 principal actors sitting in the trench, we had to have some background soldiers. And this is Matthew Ball, who starred in a play of mine called Kevin Gulai, which was produced this year by Llewellyn Theatre. Ollie Curry, who is my co-producer, had to get into uniform to become one of my background soldiers. Ollie had a twin brother, Alex, who goes by the professional name of Johnny, who also got into uniform to be one of my background soldiers. We tried to use the fact that we had twin soldiers in the trench and filmed a rather poignant scene as the lads went over the top, but unfortunately we were unable to use it in the final film. Andrew Canias, my assistant producer. I've known Andrew for a very long time. He's also a fellow writer. And again, like the others, I got him into uniform to play one of the soldiers in the background. Having got the location and the cast, I needed to put a crew together. Well, obviously, this is myself. I wrote Let Us Home and produced it, and also starred in it, very briefly.
And then look over there. No, I think we're good.
Yeah?
Yeah, I got a nice line across the face.
Jonah Jones is a good friend of mine for a number of years and a fellow writer. When I knew I was going to make the film Let Us Home, I asked Jonah if he would come on board as director. So I had my director. Now I needed a director of photography, and a lady I worked with recommended her brother, Matt Nome, who has made a number of short films. So I set up a meeting with Matt and he agreed to come on board. AJ Swift, who incidentally is my son, came on as sound man. Janet Parry, my very good friend, and my hairdresser, came on board as makeup artist. She worked on the ladies' Edwardian hairstyles on the home scenes and also dirtied up the men in the trench. Andrew McFetters was my behind-the-scenes photographer and videographer. The costumes for Let Us Home fell into two categories. We had the home scenes where we had to dress the ladies in Edwardian outfits, and those came from various numbers of suppliers, from Llewellyn Theatre to Marigolds in Cardiff and Bristol Costume Services. The uniforms for the trench scenes were supplied by Torbay Flame, and all the uniforms came complete with boots, puttees, helmets, everything you see the soldiers wearing. The rifles, 3 of them were original rifles, and they were from members of the Barry War Museum, who also loaned us a separate uniform for the home scenes. The tin shed in Larne supplied props for the trench, as well as advice on how the soldiers were to wear their uniforms. Other items were supplied to us by Morva Bay, including the Lewis gun.
So the most difficult actress I had to deal with out of the whole lot was Jay Swift. Poor thing had to step in at the last minute. Well, it was either her or me. And we had the most perfectly behaved baby of all time. Good, you know. His name was Joshua, and he behaved like an angel throughout the whole shoot. Smiling, enjoying himself, he was the happiest member of the crew. Here I am multitasking, lighting and directing. So now it's coming to the first kiss.
Let's go, guys. Yeah, it's good. Can you just stand with the mark? As I say, I am going to be changing the focus, that's all. Wicked.
Now here we are discussing how we're going to use the half penny and how she's going to hand it to him and get the camera to work at the same time. So this is the farewell scene. Yeah, try not to stand on a chicken. There were chickens everywhere. So Jackie also had to double as makeup artist, And here we are making our way to the trench, horribly early in the morning because we didn't have a lot of light to work with. And here we are actually going through the trench. Mind your head, as you may have seen in the funny bit. Matthew Boole didn't.
Still rolling, everyone? Yeah. Okay, here we go for it. Got that? Yeah. In your own time.
The conditions were very cramped, but that added to the claustrophobic feel of the whole film. It did mean that we only had certain camera angles we could use. And here we are trying to choreograph the pushing scene in that very limited space. We didn't have a lot of options. This is how you do a mine when you've got no special effects.
3, 2, 1, cut, bang!
And this is what it looks like. And now, the aftermath. Give us a puff and what do we get? How long does it take to get there? Yes, that's what we want. Yeah?
There's nothing left. Told you we ain't dying.
Yes! You blew it too early.
At this point in the script, we needed to slow it down, so we actually wrote this bit on location.
I wish I could see what they're seeing. I wish I could see what they're seeing.
Let me just refresh the blood.
And on the third attempt, he got his blood lined up properly. This last sequence was inspired by the film All Quiet on the Western Front, where each soldier's face is shown.
Out! Out! Come on, lads! Out!
One of the last people to come on board with the making of our film was Sabrina Lambert-Rose. Now, Sabrina at the time was only 17 and she was recommended to be by my sister. Sabrina is an accomplished cellist and wants to make a career out of writing music for films. Jonah and I set up a meeting with Sabrina to see if she could fit our film in with her A-levels, which she did.
The idea was that Sabrina would follow the chords behind the song Siogan, which we used in the film. She would write her own music to them, and then we would remove the chords so that her music would always fit the song Siogan.
So we went into post-production in January 2016, and basically every 3 or 4 weeks we got together to work on the editing of the film. Matt had to bring his computer and monitor over to my house, where we would either set up in the conservatory or in the living room. Once we had the final edit of our film, It was over to AJ who built the soundscape. All the artillery fire you hear on the film, including the mine explosion, was all made from scratch by AJ. There weren't any bought-in sound effects. Once we had the sound effects, we mixed in the score, and that's our film.